Sally, how do you convert self-managed landlords to landlords that use letting agents?
I think the easy analogy of that is if you were to not be aware of any of the liabilities you would carry if you were to drive your car without insurance, you probably wouldn't have insurance. But you have insurance on your car because you know that if you don't have insurance, then you run the risk of having a huge fine penalty for your other driver that you've hit, and also losing your entire car yourself. So therefore you pay for insurance. If you compare that analogy to a let-only landlord, the let-only landlord has no idea the risks and liabilities that he is taking on by being a let-only landlord. And I say this from speaking at seminars up and down the country to landlord groups, and the common denominator across all of them is they have no idea. I mean, we have literally stood up and said, what are you doing about the immigration checks? And they don't know what we're talking about. I have asked people, what do you do if a tenant won't let you in for a gas cert? They have no idea what to do on that. They don't know what the how to rent guide is or what the Deregulation Act or its stipulation and criteria. We've had many that don't even know about the smoke alarms and the carbon monoxide testing on the day of moving. It's frightening. They don't know.
And this is nearly half of all letting properties don't use a letting agent, or somewhere around that sort of number. That's quite scary, isn't it?
It is. They don't know what they don't know. So if you want to convert them, you've got to let them know what they don't know. Find a way to educate them.
How do you educate them?
Oh, we do it in many ways. We do it via seminars. We do seminars on a regular basis at our agency branches. We do Facebook posts. We do videos. All stuff you talk about, really, Chris. You know, so just really get out there and communicate to them what pieces of legislation they need to abide by. So, for example, we'll create a video that just says, landlords, are you aware you could be banned from renting your property and have to pay 12 months rent back? Watch this video now. And there's Dawn explaining in 10 minutes exactly all the things they need to know. That will get 20,000 views over a weekend because it's specifically aimed at landlords. Unless you're a landlord, you're not going to watch that video. So it just scares the life out of them. Scare the life out of them, they'll start calling you and wanting fully managed. So it's just education.
Interesting. I have a client who puts those sort of videos out, and then on Facebook, and he knows that if someone watches more than 75% of it, it's going to be a self-managed landlord, because normally a landlord that uses an agent just dismisses it. So, well, my agent will sort that out. And that puts them into like a Facebook funnel of self-managed landlords, and then that landlord gets delivered additional videos that are focused on self-managed landlords.
You can create an audience, can't you, from people that watch 75% of your videos. You know that is going to be a landlord group, predominantly let-only landlords, and then you can market your seminar to them, or your download, or your booklet, or whatever it is. And it's just finding ways to identify, and then really just... And the objective is not to scare the life out of them, but you will, because they have no idea. I mean, I actually had a meeting with my bank manager a couple of months ago, and he's a self-manager. I had no idea about any of it. I had to stop myself because I was starting to interrogate him.
So we've almost got to talk about the fears and the frustrations. Most of them don't even know what the legislation is, so we have to create that fear in a good way, in a bad way.
Just be honest. Just be absolutely honest, Mr. I mean, I face to face with a landlord on landlord appointments, and they say to me, "I want let only." I would just say, "Mr. Landlord, I couldn't possibly let you have let only. I mean, can I just ask you a question? What are you going to do about the Immigration Act? The what? The Immigration Act. What are you going to do about the checks to make sure that they've got right to stay and right to remain in the UK, and the follow-on checks to make sure that they continue right to stay?" Well, I don't know what you mean. What are you going to do about the Deregulation Act? How are you going to handle that? And how are you going to make sure you're recording all your maintenance? Mr. Landlord, if you don't know this, then I can't possibly let you have let only.
Sorry, are you saying that letting agents should refuse to do let only?
Yes, absolutely. They should.
Really?
Absolutely, they should. It's not... My answer to that is morally wrong. If they are not full-time landlords, I mean, there are exceptions. So if you're dealing with the co-op, or you're dealing with, an organisation, or you're dealing with a full-time landlord that does this full-time, that's different. But if you're dealing with a young couple that's just got a spare house, or an accountant, or a solicitor that's just got a property and they do something else during the day, absolutely not. Because when they fall foul of something, they're going to come back to you and be looking to you for a price. There are cases going on around the UK now where let-only landlords are going back to agents and saying, "You should have told me."
Really?
And so we can't let them have let-only. So I absolutely, yes, we should be refusing to do let-only unless they can prove that they are capable of managing that tenancy correctly. And in my experience, 99% of them can't. And so we should be walking away from those appointments. And that way, when you walk away, it's going to let them know how serious you are. But it's about training your listers, making sure that your point of sale person, the person that goes to land evaluations, understands exactly what pieces of legislation apply and how to communicate that to that landlord.
Do you think letting agent listers are trained to a sufficient standard to do that?
No, at the moment they're not. No, many listers at the moment they'll go out with their presenter packs, which I find quite entertaining. We started the company in 1980 and we established this and we've got client money protection, these are our awards and all that sort of stuff. It's not what landlords are interested in. I wouldn't be doing that. I'd just go, Mr. Landlord, how are you going to...
Because there's plenty of courses out there to teach sales listers, but I've never come across any courses to teach letting listers, unless you know of any.
We do one. No plug.
It's good. We'll put a special code in here. So
Commission.
No commission. No, I've known Sally for 8 years and she's a good friend, that's why I'm here. So come on, what do you teach on this course then? I didn't know you did. Genuinely, I didn't know you did this course.
We've only just started doing it, and we've started doing it because there's a problem. We're saying this is what you need to do, but the listers are trained so channel vision to do it this old-fashioned style way. So basically, we make it all about the landlord. It's just like, Mr. Landlord, what's your plans? What you're trying to do? What you're trying to achieve? You ask loads and loads of questions. You find out what their levels of experiences are, how often what they know, etc., etc. And then you start talking to them about the legislation.
Do you think a good sales lister makes a good lettings lister?
Not necessarily. No, they're different creatures, I think.
Yeah.
I think the letting agency lister, the consultation, the meeting is very consultative. It's for me, you should have 80% of the time you should have your mouth shut. And you only open it really when you've got to deliver a killer line, and that is, Mr. Landlord, if you don't know how to do blah 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 blah, I couldn't possibly let you have let only. And it's a very, very different appointment to the estate agency side.
That's quite a change in mindset to do those things, though, isn't it?
It's a huge change in mindset, and a lot of this is mindset, because the challenge we have as letting agents, we've been doing things like this for 20 years. We haven't changed. I speak to letting agents that are still doing exactly what they're doing, apart from they've now got computers. But they're doing Rightmove, yeah. But they're doing what they were doing 20 years ago. Their appointments are the same, their offerings are the same, their services are the same, their terms and conditions have been tweaked, but they're pretty much the same. We're charging less, and generally, than what we were 10, 20 years ago. So the world has changed, but we have not moved on. You just think about advertising. I don't know how you, Chris, know all about insurance marketing, but we see 250 adverts a day. But how many can remember? And yet we're still selling. We're still doing point of sale selling. Selling doesn't work anymore. It's got to be about the customer. It's got to be about them. It's got to be about... The more you can make it more consultative, the more it's going to work. And it is a completely different way of running a list evaluation.
Maybe we could put a link down here below, and as I said, I'm not on commission and I didn't even know you did this flipping course. I wish you'd have bloody well told me. And we'll take it from there, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris.
Cheers.
Thank you.